Have you ever wondered what a guy in knight armor would look like 40,000 years into the future? Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm Sergeant A10, and today I'm going to be talking about these big, beefy, medieval knights of the Imperium of Man, being the Space Marines. Now, when I was first learning about these guys, I thought it would be cool and awesome, and just a really fun video idea. I mean, come on, big dudes in armor ripping and blasting screaming orcs? How could that not be cool? But I was very wrong. Well, not in that way, but in the way that these guys went from being average Joes who shoot to kill to brainwashed child soldiers engineered for war. Anyways, what even is a Space Marine? A Space Marine is a little human in some big armor.
No shit.
Alright, let me be a bit more informative than that. A Space Marine is a human who is infused with the power of a gene seed, which is basically an alien implant doohickey that, if compatible with the person, allows them to become a god. Okay, not a god, but they are able to grow 19 plus more organs, so it's nothing short of impressive. But this process is not easy. In fact, you have to be really young. How young, you ask? Well, the Imperium thinks the ripe age of 10 years old makes for a good starting foundation. They also require to be male because the gene seed is not compatible with female bodies. Sexist. Oh, and it's also very likely you'll die during the process. No, I'm not kidding. If the gene seed does not think you're cool enough to serve the Emperor, it could just kill you, or cause organ failure. Tomato, tomato. The process involves many trials and tests of the person's body, and timely transition from a human into an Astarte, which is basically a fancy word for a Space Marine, as well. The so-called Emperor, or Emperor of Mankind as he is referred to, is essentially their god, as well as the Imperium being the land they guard and protect, which is actually just Earth, but rebranded to the name Terra for copyright reasons, I guess. And the lengths these guys go to protect their holy land is just insane, even though it's just us 40,000 years into the future, which is shocking to think about what we could evolve into in 40,000 years. Speaking of shocking, let's talk about the shocking anatomy of these Marines? Astartes. Now, you may be wondering how these futuristic Marines put their so-called armor on. Well, I'm glad to inform you that they don't necessarily put the armor on. They live in it. Kind of like a crab, but at least a crab can leave their home. Yes, Space Marines don't just wear the armor they wear. They basically are the armor, because one of the implants from the alien implant doohickey I talked about earlier is literally called the black carapace, serving as a layer on the Astarte of being a connector between their skin to the armor, which gives the Space Marine the ability to feel their armor. No, I mean actually feel, because these guys could get tapped ever so gently on any part of them, and they will feel it. The implants also give the Astarte reflexes like one of the people from the Matrix, but instead of being able to just dodge bullets, they can actually think so fast that everything is basically in slow motion for them. Imagine having to wait in line at McDonald's, and your order takes about like 5 minutes, but for a Space Marine, it could feel like literal hours for them. I don't know, that's just crazy to me. Anyways, these guys are also built like a tank, weighing as much as queso, and are as fast as an Olympic athlete, which is just an insane combo to have for, in other words, a superhuman. Superman better watch out, he might have some competition. Anyways, now we've clarified that they're not as strong as, like, fucking Goku, let's move on. Okay, maybe they are not that strong, but they could certainly hold their own, especially with their armory and weapons. One of them being the Bolter, which is basically a pistol that is 3 times bigger than an ordinary M1. Now, if a regular human tried firing this thing, the after effect would look like they were firing it backwards. Yeah, that might be a lot of cleaning up to do. Another weapon actually being a self-cleaning weapon called the Chainsword, which is a literal sword with chainsaw blades on it. This being probably the second most seen and used by the Astarte, meaning it is a very popular second choice to the Bolter. Now, this thing's motor spins so fast, the blood literally flies off of it, which is just insane to me. I can't stress that enough. Now, can it be used to rip and tear, you ask? What do you think? And lastly, we have a glove so powerful, it can rip open the pickle jar, and the glass the pickles are in too. Don't ask me how, just take my word for it. Alright, it's called the Power Fist, but I personally call it the pickle jar opener. Anyways, you may be wondering how Space Marines carry their weapons in a combat. Well, they don't. How do they do this? Well, they drop from space. That's how. They don't need to carry their weapons because they don't carry them. They just drop in with them. That's right, the Imperium uses Space Marines primarily as shock troopers, sending them to any danger that is opposing the Imperium. I think that's enough talking about these guys' weapons. If you would like me to talk more about their absolute weapons of mass destruction in another video, let me know. Anyways, moving on to... Now, after all I've told you, you might be surprised that Space Marines have any free time. And you would be correct, they do not have a lot of free time. What I mean by this is that Astartes spend the time they are not fighting heretics, and 2, praying. Yeah, like, no, I'm dead serious. Yes, Space Marines are actually extremely religious, using their Bible equivalent being the Codex, which is basically their how-to guide for becoming a great Space Marine. It also features as a military field manual, a legal constitution, and like I said before, a holy Bible. Which means Space Marines never miss church on Sundays, or Sunday school for that matter. Now you may be asking, are these guys just, well, male nuns? And my response would be, no, they're space nuns, and we actually already have space nuns, but instead of being dudes in otherworldly armor with superhuman powers, they are primarily an army with the constant embodiment of when your mom is upset at you for not doing the laundry, even though she asked you 15 times already this week, you still somehow forgot. You may now be asking, has this happened to me? I'm not obligated to share anything.
Maybe.
Anyways, these gals are called the Battle Sisters of the Imperium, and I thought they were a worthy mention because they are literally just Space Marines, but without the gene seed. And they are all female, no exceptions. They are called the Battle Sisters for a reason, girl power. Again, if you guys would like to see a video on these space gals, let me know in the comments. Anyways, moving on to... Despite being one of the coolest looking and awesome factions in 40k by being sacred towards the Codex, and especially the Emperor himself, Space Marines overall have a dark reality, and their lives are very tragic, and I think that should be talked about more. But hey, this was just a brief analysis of what even a Space Marine was. So, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, a sub, and a comment on what you want me to discuss to you cadets next. Now get back to training. Those heretics aren't gonna blast themselves.